over 600 million people across Africa live without access to electricity, and in a world powered by data, innovation, and industry, the gap affects everything from healthcare to education. Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa 2025 set to change that. With a focus of small modular and micro reactors, the summit explored scalable, low-carbon nuclear technology that could expand access, boost industry, and power Africa's next chapter. My name is JD Odinga, and welcome to In Focus, an EAMG TV special bringing you the highlights and insights from the just concluded Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa 2025 that took place right here in the heart of Kigali, Rwanda. Let's get into it.
I warmly welcome you to the first ever Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa, NEISA 2025. Let me begin by thanking all our partners. This important summit would not have been possible without your shared commitment to Africa's energy transformation. For anyone familiar with Africa's energy landscape and its related challenges, it is easier to understand the relevance of this summit. The future of the Africa energy landscape will continue to be driven by increasing energy demand and increasing population growth. According to some statistics, in not more than 40 years from today, Africa's population could exceed 3 billion people. Therefore, the continent will be potentially the largest energy market globally, driven mostly by industrialization, use of artificial intelligence, and urbanization, all necessary to achieve the continental development aspirations. At the same time, as we gather here today, there are more than 600 million Africans who do not have access to electricity. They rely on biomass and other non-nuclear energy sources to meet their basic energy needs. This situation results in increased pressure on available forest resources. It further puts at risk natural ecosystems that are already suffering from negative impacts of climate change. While Africa has significant solar, wind, and hydropower resources that can potentially meet the energy needs of all its population, these resources are not evenly distributed, which limits electricity access in many parts of the continent. This energy gap continues to hold back growth and development across the continent. To bridge this energy gap, now more than ever, our countries need to jointly work towards finding alternative solutions of energy production. And one of the best solutions for Africa to achieve its development agenda is nuclear energy for power generation and other industrial applications. As we know, nuclear energy is categorized as a clean source of energy. Both the Paris Agreement and the COP29 have acknowledged its role in helping achieve global net zero carbon emissions, as will be discussed throughout this conference. And we should agree that investing in clean, reliable energy sources like nuclear is not just smart policy, it's a necessary step towards sustainable development. The use of nuclear energy will not only address the energy deficit, but also will potentially provide innovative solutions to advance other sectors, such as agriculture and healthcare, among others. Too often, when people hear the word nuclear, they think of harmful or dangerous use. But contrary to this perception, that's not our focus. This gathering is about nuclear energy for peace, innovation, and development. As you know, climate change is already harming the energy sources sources we have relied on for years. That makes it more urgent to find new, reliable ways to power our homes, communities, and economies. Take the example of Zambezi River. In 2024, its water levels dropped significantly, forcing the Kariba Dam, one of Africa's largest hydropower plants, to cut back electricity generation. This led to power shortage and exposed how climate change is putting even our most dependable energy infrastructure at risk. We believe that in this context, Africa, mentioned earlier, our continent is rich in energy resources. However, these are not equally spread and remain dependent on weather conditions. And that's why nuclear energy deserves our attention. It is clean, reliable, and does not depend on rain or sun. It provides consistent power day and night. Distinguished guests, here in Rwanda, our Vision 2050 aims at making us an upper middle income country by 2035 and a high income country by 2050. For the implementation of this national development agenda, known as the Rwanda Vision 2050, our country will need up to 5 gigawatts in electricity generation capacity. Or available internal energy sources can provide up to 1 gigawatt. Therefore, Rwanda has decided to use nuclear energy for power generation to avoid the imbalance in energy demand and supply. This will accelerate our economic transformation towards a knowledge-based economy. In this regard, we recognize the need for smaller and micro-nuclear power plants as pathway for smaller energy systems to afford nuclear energy in our national energy mix. In this context, Rwanda remains committed to fostering an open and supportive business environment, and we welcome partners from around the world to collaborate, localize their solutions, and scale impact not only in Rwanda, but across the continent. As I conclude, let me leave you with 3 messages to carry forward. First, in the African context, nuclear energy holds the potential to accelerate progress, strengthen essential services, and promote inclusive development across all communities during the energy transition. Second, Africa must lead this transition together through regional partnerships, innovation, and global cooperation. We can turn today's energy challenges into tomorrow's opportunities. Third, the time to act is now. Climate change is real and our population is growing. We must diversify our energy mix, and the nuclear is part of that solution. With these remarks, I now declare the 2025 Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa officially open. I wish you fruitful discussion.
The knowledge and results which is going to be generated through this summit are anticipated to significantly contribute to strategic advancement and power our people. We believe that the insight which is going to be gained and the outcome of this summit will be instrumental in advancing the development of nuclear power in Africa. Distinguished guests, as it has been said, about 600 million people and 10 million small businesses in Africa have no access to reliable electricity. This challenge is further compounded by the fact that electricity demand in Africa is growing twice as much, as faster as the global average, driven by urgent need for industrialization to meet our social economic priorities. Not only that, but also the climate change has impacted the performance of most of our traditional energy sources, resulting in reduced power generation from these traditional sources. In my own country, Tanzania, the annual power demand is growing at a pace of 10 to 15%. To meet our development goal, we plan to increase our installed capacity generation from the current status, which is 4,414 megawatts, to over 10,000 megawatts in the year 2030. Our commitment to regional power integration through the Eastern and Southern African Power Pool and the eventual continental-wide grid interconnection present a significant opportunity to exploit our energy sources, including nuclear, which we have them in abundance. We remain optimistic that nuclear energy will be a viable option for our future.
What an honor to have you all, policymakers, leaders, and experts, academic institutions, and startups in innovative technologies, youth, all united by a common goal: to chart a sustainable and prosperous energy future for Africa. Rwanda is proud to host this important dialogue, building on the current momentum of nuclear energy implementation and its financing, along with forward-thinking African nations. With your support and partnerships, Rwanda is now taking center stage in the continent's nuclear energy journey, with the hope to see the Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa giving center stage to African states willing to host a future event. But I cannot go on with this remark without acknowledging the leadership and vision of His Excellency President Paul Kagame, because he's the one who brought me to chair the Rwanda Atomic Energy Commission, or board. I'm from Burkina Faso. One would wonder why bringing somebody from Burkina to chair the Rwanda Atomic Energy Board. But that's the Pan-Africanism and the leadership and vision that President Kagame is sharing with you all to show that you don't have to be Rwandan, you just have to be African. Many gatherings have certainly played a pivotal role in highlighting Africa's readiness to embrace nuclear energy as part of the energy mix. Each one has reinforced a crucial message: Africa is not just a participant in the global energy conversation. We are leaders, innovators, and stakeholders shaping the future of clean energy solutions. As we set the tone here in Kigali, the government of Rwanda expects this summit and future ones to provide a platform for African nations to showcase the progress we are making, highlight our specific energy needs, and forge meaningful partnership with international stakeholders. It is an opportunity as well to demonstrate to the world that Africa is not merely adapting to the global energy transition, but is driving it with resilience, innovation, and collaboration.
Beyond the main sessions, the real pulse of Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa 2025 was found in the voices of those who've been in the work, people building solutions, asking the hard questions, and shaping what nuclear energy could mean for Africa. From policymakers and scientists to developers and regional leaders, we heard stories of progress, pressure, and possibility. Some spoke about what their countries are doing to get ready. Others reflected on the gaps that still need to be addressed.
We have finally made the connection that prosperity, socioeconomic development, industry, quality of life, health, education, exciting jobs, all those things need abundant, affordable, 24/7 clean energy. And in many parts of the world, we have realized that nuclear energy is definitely a piece of that puzzle. Not the only piece, but clearly an essential piece. So we are seeing how in all parts of the world, the conversations are changing about nuclear. So first of all, the conversation is no longer whether nuclear is a piece, whether nuclear should be considered. The conversation is how much and how fast. And this is in North America, this is in Europe, this is obviously happening in China, India, Southeast Asia, Central Asia. So now we need to make sure that this is also happening in Africa. We have a few things already happening. In Egypt, in South Africa, we are seeing not only accelerating the growth for nuclear, but I think that we really need to bring all these pieces together everywhere else in Africa. And let me just say, to me, this is a perfect moment in the history, because it's not just Africa who is rebuilding this infrastructure that, as you said, we used to have in the 60s, 70s or earlier. This is the same in many other parts of the world. In Europe, in North America, for more than 20 years, we have not invested in this technology. We have really let the infrastructure to go a little bit eroded. And now we are working to bring that back. So I think that this is a perfect opportunity for Africa to join the movement. Let's not wait for somebody else to come to Africa. Let's make sure that Africa is sitting at the table with all the other countries that are pursuing nuclear energy, because as you know, there is many existing nuclear countries, but there is many newcomer countries in all corners of the world. In Africa, in Europe, we have Poland, we have Norway, we have Denmark. These are newcomer countries that have never had nuclear power. So they are in the same situation almost as we have some countries in Africa. Or Central Asia, you have Kazakhstan, you have Uzbekistan, you have Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia. Or if you look at Asia, you have Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines. All those countries are no different than Africa, and they are all moving forward. I think that is the moment to build this coalition of the newcomer ambitious to actually be at the table and make sure that you make actionable decisions on your future, including nuclear as part of the picture.
It's happening in other countries. And there are shortages, of course. Everyone is talking about nuclear. Once our best and brightest go somewhere to learn this, what are the chances that they'll come back? I mean, this is for both of you. Is there a way we can have this training done in centers of excellence here on the continent?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would say so, because Ghana has a school for nuclear engineering that is bringing about people from across the continent. But I want to give the example of Rwanda. What under President Kagame's vision, Rwanda has, for the past 5 years, consistently sent professional and young students abroad to study nuclear science technology. For the past 5 years, and the 6th year, next year precisely, they will be trained in Rwanda. That's probably the way to go, because we create a critical mass of experts that will accompany the deployment and implementation of our nuclear energy ambitions. But also, Dr. Sama will probably elaborate on it. She's funding training courses, 5 weeks training courses on nuclear science and technology.
There is a misinformation that says if a country has nuclear power plant is one step closer to a nuclear weapon, right? Or that there are risks of proliferation. All these myths have to be banned. And how do you do this? You inform both the public and the students in a very rigorous way. There is a very clear distinction between nuclear civilian infrastructure and nuclear weapons infrastructures. And we need really to start thinking and talking about the benefits of nuclear energy and informing the public on the difference between the two. There are ways to do it. But the reason why we have not been able to somehow change the narrative around nuclear energy is that for many years the nuclear industry was quite dormant. And so after a first generation of nuclear power plants, right, in Europe in particular, in the United States, some in China and Russia, the rest of the world wasn't really involved in the conversation. And so we really didn't need to explain why nuclear energy has so many benefits and for what. Now the conversation has started, and I think we can really do a great educational, strategy around showing the public the benefits of nuclear energy. And let me finish with this, Eugene. We should not limit the benefits to electricity. We often just talk about nuclear energy as providing electricity, which is certainly true. But if you go to an hospital today and you get an X-ray, this is nuclear medicine. If you use the most cutting-edge farming techniques, use X-ray and gamma rays in order to actually kill pesticides, this is one of the most effective farming strategy that we are now developing. So we need to think about the whole benefits of nuclear energy and not only electricity, and really show to people that this kind of energy has an incredible amount of benefits that go just beyond electricity.
Nuclear has the positives and the side effects. Every technology has the side effects, okay? But the important thing, nuclear takes into consideration how to manage and to reduce the negative impacts. And there is no technology that really, in terms of planning, execution, and development, that takes into account how the mitigation aspect is also dealt with. So it will take time, but if we are able to sustain forums like this on a yearly basis, gradually, the nuclear will get to the homes of every corner on the continent.
Yes, this forum is so significant for Rwanda and for Africa because it means we are seeking to build the momentum with our African brothers to work together to reach the energy sufficient to end the energy poverty we have in Africa. But not only as African brothers, as government and states, but also we have vendors, we have regulators, international bodies. So we want to send a message as African countries that we think that we are ready to implement nuclear energy, and we are ready to do the necessary in terms of capacity building, in terms of regulatory framework, in terms of all the ecosystem to ensure that Africa develop and to assure that Africa meets its energy demand. Right. Rwanda has made key decisions 5 or 6 years ago. First was that nuclear will need to be part of our energy mix. That's one big decision. The second decision is we need to go to small and modular reactors. After decisions, we took actions. First, we start sending hundreds of students to foreign countries to study nuclear technology. So now it's hundreds of students. Second, we established Rwanda Atomic Energy Board to oversee and to facilitate. Third, we start establishing a regulatory framework in cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. And fourth, we have established the relationship with developers. There is Russian Rosatom, there is nanonuclear technology, there is dual fluids, and more are coming. So we did not only make the intention, but we took actions. And even this summit is an action taken by the government of Rwanda to say it's good that we go together as African to benefit from the economy of scale than going it alone. So we decided as a government to organize this Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit to ensure that we bring all like-minded African countries on board.
This conference, we're making history. The world is watching us. The World Bank just approved financing nuclear power plants around the world for the first time. So the timing could not be better. As I said on stage, humanity is falling in love with nuclear energy again. And we're seeing it in real time as we start to imagine what this opportunity could look like, something that we can save the world. And Rwanda, with your optimism and your success in building things, this is the perfect place to have it. So I think there's a lot of optimism in the crowd, and this is, once again, Kigali couldn't be a better place for this opportunity.
There are several things that in my view we need to do. The first one is, look, there have been some really interesting recommendations that have come out of the summit, and I think the organizers need really to follow up on these recommendations and bring together maybe a panel of experts and policymakers that think through the recommendations that the summit have made and really try to map out what needs to be prioritized and under what conditions. You have heard a couple of things that are really important. One, which was repeated over and over, is that we need to ground the nuclear project in Africa to the industrial development of countries. This is really important because if we continue to talk about nuclear energy in vague terms, nobody's going to buy it. If you actually say you want nuclear energy in order to support your mining industry or your manufacturing industry, here you already have a strategy of industrial development and energy security. So we need to go back and look at some of these recommendations and really drill into a strategy. The second, it is really for people like me to go back to my own country, the United States, and really brief policymakers about what's happening in the summit and why the African dialogue is so meaningful today for the nuclear industry, but also for the international community as a whole. So we have some work to do here and internationally.
Together, their perspectives brought the summit's big ideas down to earth, rooted in experience, urgency, and a shared belief that Africa's energy future must be led from within.
With leaders, regulators, and innovators in one room, the message was clear. Energy security isn't just a dream, it's a decision. As Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit 2025 concluded, one question lingered. How will Africa turn today's conversation into lasting energy solutions? The ideas are on the table and the path forward depends on what Africa will choose to build together. Thank you for joining us on In Focus. My name is JD Odinga, and make sure you follow EAMG TV on all social media platforms to stay updated, and see you next time.